I call to order the March 11th, 2024 Henderson County Board of Public Education meeting. We will have the presentation of colors by West Henderson High School Army Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps under the leadership of Major Stephen Hill and CW Mike Bailey. Would you please rise?
Post. Colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Center. Face. Forward. March. Forward. March.
Again, that was the West Henderson High School Junior ROTC under the leadership of Major Stephen Hill and CW Mike Bailey. And if you'll please remain standing for a moment of silence during this time, please feel free to offer your silent prayers or thoughts in support of the Henderson County Public Schools and specifically for the family and friends of North Henderson High student Miss Kylie Boyd, or engage in silent reflection. Thank you. You may be seated. I want to invite y'all to look over the agenda, make a motion for approval.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recognitions, DECA State Competition and DAR essay winners, Mr. Garrett. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's my pleasure this evening to recognize several students. First, we're going to talk about our Daughters of the American Revolution essay contest winners. We have two students who did very, very well, and I'm going to ask that their teacher come up and share, or principal, I don't know, for Hendersonville Middle. I can go. So Hendersonville Middle, we have Susanna Daniels. Is Susanna here? All right, Susanna won first place for the sixth grade category in the annual Daughters of the American Revolutionary Regional Essay Contest. This year's topic asked writers to imagine that they were reporters present at the first public performance of John Philip Sousa's famous march, The Stars and Stripes Forever. Our discussion about band and orchestra and some of those things are very appropriate for this. Students also had to provide background information about Sousa's career and his inspiration for writing the Patriotic March while he was overseas. 91 students entered the regional contest, and Susanna was the first place winner. So I think that's worth an applause. So let's applaud Susanna. Then we have a winner from Bruce Drysdale. So come on up, Mr. Joyce. You and Ms. Summey, come on up as well. I'll let you share.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. Leah Martinonis here is an outstanding fifth grader at Bruce Drysdale. And Leah did something quite amazing this year under the leadership and guidance of Miss April Summey. Leah was not only the regional DAR essay contest winner, but she also won the state.
Wow.
So give it up. So we are really proud of Leah's accomplishment. She has worked very hard this year. It's been a focus on writing at our school this year, and Leah has absolutely rocked it. So we're super proud of Leah. I also want to recognize Leah's mom here, as well as being a huge supporter. Give it up for moms. But again, Leah, congratulations. Nice job. Awesome. All right.
Good job. Good job.
Next, we're going to recognize several students from the West Henderson DECA program. So I'm going to ask Mr. Manuel and Ms. Garrett to step up and share more about these students.
Good afternoon, school board. Thank you guys for having us here today. On Wednesday, February 28th, our West Henderson DECA chapter traveled to Greensboro, North Carolina to compete at DECA State Career Development Conference, along with over 5,000 DECA members from across the state. Not only did they come home with numerous wins, they represented Henderson County and West Henderson with class and pride. We had 35 students competing this year, 27 of them new to DECA from West Henderson. 5 students will be traveling to Anaheim, California in April to compete at DECA's International Career Development Conference with over 23,000 students from across the globe. So it's a big, big deal. So we have several students to recognize today. The first one for Automotive Services Marketing, Erwin Thomas, top test winner, 5th place state finalist. He is currently at a tennis match, but congratulations to Erwin. For Hotel, Lodging, and Management, if Brady McGee would come down. Brady was the top role play 1 and 2 winner and an 8th place state finalist overall. Congratulations to Brady. Next, we have Hospitality Services Team, Anne-Marie and Naomi Cannon, Anne-Marie Delphin and Naomi Cannon, top role play winners, top test winners, and 2nd place finalists. If you guys would come down. Congratulations to them. Yes, thank you, guys. And for Marketing Communication Service Event, Aubrey Garrett. If Aubrey could come down for 7th place state finalist. Congratulations to Aubrey. And while we have Aubrey here, special recognition, Aubrey is now the newly elected Blue Ridge Vice President for our entire Blue Ridge region. I would like to publicly congratulate her and her dad, her mom and her dad as well. Mr. and Mrs. Garrett, the connections here. We know the connection here, but I can't be remiss without saying the really hard work goes to Mrs. Garrett, who is our DECA advisor and a wonderful teacher in person. Congratulations to you too. Thank you.
I just want to thank, very quickly, Mr. Rhodes and Ms. Arrowwood and Mr. Garrett for coming and helping these students do role plays and get them ready for state competition. So thank you for giving up your time. You're welcome.
So for those who may be watching online, yes, those Garretts are related to me and obviously have followed in their mother's footsteps when it comes to the DECA success. So certainly proud of all of the students honored tonight, both from Hendersonville Middle, Bruce Drysdale, and West Henderson. So congratulations to our students. Can we give them one more round of applause? One interesting fact about Erwin Thomas, who's not here, he's actually an exchange student this year from Germany. So he came over and has had one of the best exchange years ever because he's done a lot of different things. But he is going to international competition after just being here for a few months. So certainly congratulations again to everyone.
And next, for our program highlight, we'd like to welcome Dr. Marcia Justice, Director of Elementary Education, to talk about kindergarten registration and readiness. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much. Before we begin, I would like to just thank our friends with Public School Strong here in the back. They came to our schools last week and read to our elementary students. And I think the students had a great time, but I think the adults had even a better time. So we'd just like to thank them for coming to our schools, and I welcome them in anytime. So thank you for that. So our theme is Every Piece Matters, but in addition to that, we added Where You Grow Matters. And as a mother of 4 children, 2 of which have already been through Henderson County Public Schools and 2 who are currently in Henderson County Public Schools, I will say that this is true. I would not raise my children anywhere else but Henderson County. If we can go ahead, we'll watch a quick video. This is only one advertisement that we ran, and if you didn't know, we have the most amazing public information officer there is. She has done an amazing job with advertising, kindergarten readiness, and I just want to say thank you to you, Kimbrell. You've done an excellent job, and the numbers show it. This is also one of our flyers that we ran through media, and so as we're welcoming our 2024-2025 kindergartners, our registration opened on February 1st. And you'll see Muriel, who is now a first grader at Upward, in the picture there. So on our website, we have a banner that allows parents to go to the banner and click and register their student in English or in Spanish. And even at some point, if they're not ready to upload information or answer all the questions, they can come back to where they left off and register their students. Along with that, we have very important information on our website about our Q&A sessions, which I'll talk about in just a few moments, our readiness rallies, what time and where they're located, and just the requirements about what they need for registration. Well, where can you find out more information about kindergarten registration? We have handouts to early childhood centers, handouts to community partners. We went to the laundry facilities. We went to restaurants. We went to dentist office, doctor's offices, places where we knew our families would be going so they could pick up these flyers. There's a QR code in the lower right-hand corner which they can scan and go ahead and register. And a new highlight, we have a billboard on 4 Seasons. And so Ariel here at Upward Elementary, now currently a first grader, and I will say her parents grin and are so proud to pass this billboard every day. And I will say that this face is a great representation of why we do what we do each day, because we are student-centered. This is the registration numbers, and we were 508, I believe, just recently. So we are, I believe, 40 more than we were at this time last year. So the advertisement is working. We got a little bit further away from the paper side of it and went with a lot more online ads and things like that, which I think has really made the difference. Kindergarten Q&A sessions. These were very helpful this year, and we gained a larger portion of our community attending these. We had 2. We had one at Etowah Library and one at Hendersonville Library, and the Hendersonville Library here at the main branch was full. It was quite successful, and we had several people on the in the group that answered questions. We had Kendall Heck, who is our kindergarten coordinator, as well as 2 principals, 2 kindergarten teachers, a counselor and a nurse and an interpreter. Why Were these people on the panel? Well, because they're experts in their field, and they can tell the story, they can answer the questions. And I will say we had quite a few interesting questions this year, and why I believe that this is so important. Number one, our parents feel more comfortable sending their students to school. They know what to expect, and we get to tell our story. They're not reading from a Facebook page that has inaccurate information. So it gives us an opportunity to tell them accurate information. So I feel like this is really super important. Kindergarten ready kits. There were, on February the 27th, we had over 20 volunteers that were preparing these readiness bags, and we had lots of community partners that you can see in the slide. Why do we put these things in the kits? Because they do multiple things. They show learning through play, fine motor skills, dexterity, mathematical thinking, oral language, social learning. They're games. Kids that have fun doing those games. It also says, hey, let's take turns. Along with those pieces, that we also have readiness activity books that tell them how to prepare their child for kindergarten. What do they need to do to prepare them for that? And the one highlight that I'd like to talk about is Inscripciones para Kinder en Español. That took place March 2nd, and it was a huge success. Evelyn Angeles is a key component to that, and they had to move to Grace Lutheran this year because it's so much bigger than it has been traditionally. So I would like to just read quickly this quote from one of our parents. I never knew this type of program existed until I had my son and was ready to enter the school years. I'm so glad this was available to help us understand the steps to enroll our kids to the school system. We're so grateful to have people that volunteer in this and made this possible. I know lots of parents benefit from this event because of the language barrier, and we're so excited we had all our questions answered in our language. Thank you so much for making this happen, and we look forward to passing this along with future programs like this to the community. So this is a great example of removing barriers. What you'll see in these pictures on the upper left-hand corner are backpacks that were packed full of water bottles, school supplies, and Sesame Street characters. And the students put them on their back when they walked in, and they didn't take them off. They love them. Up in the top center, you will see our Smart Start team, along with Kendall Heck, who is a key component in making this happen, as well as lead ambassadors from North Henderson High School and also Sugarloaf Amigos were present. They opened doors, they gave out backpacks, they played with the students and entertained them so parents could register their student, they could ask questions, and they could discuss with our community partners how to do some things and get resources that they need to be successful. So this was huge. In 2023, we had 40 families. This year, we had 58 families, and it's growing. Kindergarten readiness rallies, we have one tonight, we have two tomorrow night, and we have two more on Thursday night, and these are our community partners. They're super important. They're providing resources for our students, and they're in partnership with us, and we appreciate them. I just wanted to make sure that they were represented here so that we could say thank you to them. Some of the things that I really find that parents enjoy, as well as the Sheriff's Department and our SROs pair together, and they see that our schools are safe, and they're friendly, and they want us here. Relationships matter. Just a few more pictures. What do we do in our readiness rallies? We get to see our school, we get to see the gym, we get to do activities, we get to meet our principal and some smiling faces, the custodians, the bus drivers. We get to get on a bus and sit and strap in. I've never seen so many people excited about seeing a big yellow bus. It's amazing. And you might get lucky and leave in the lower right-hand corner. You see Tanner? He's leaving with his first T-shirt from Hendersonville Elementary. Super excited. Kindergarten registration will remain open until school begins. Registration is important. Why? It connects families with schools. They get messages, they know when things are happening, they know what activities are happening, and they get to hear from their schools. So I encourage everyone listening to make sure you register. It's important. This is the class of 2037.
Say that again.
This, this is the class of 2037. Please register your students. Traditions are important. Those discussed today are what sets us apart from others. Let's continue. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Dr. Justice. We appreciate it. Good job. And I think we'd like to go back. We have one more recognition that we forgot, and that's for I'm just trying to take the blame.
Okay, good. It's
Hey, that's okay. We
Understandable.
appreciate it.
understandable.
Said your name, we're gonna recognize the person. Come
Good double recognition.
Ms. Allison, come on up.
Trying to get Ms. Boyette up.
There's Miss Boyette.
Well, she is going to run the 800, so we also thank her for running that.
And the 400.
Yeah,
Both those are. I'll let you share, Ms. Allison.
All right, well, I'm going to just introduce Susanna Denals for winning the first place in the 6th grade category of the annual Daughters of the American Revolution Regional Essay Contest. And I definitely want to recognize Miss Boyette, too, who makes sure these kids take these academic challenges and excel in them consistently. And so I want to give a shout out to both Miss Boyette and Susanna for that. This year's topic, are you ready for this? Is to imagine that they were reporters to present on the first public performance of John Philip Sousa's famous march, The Stars and Stripes Forever. So she wrote an essay on pretending that she was a reporter attending that performance. And so students also had to provide background information about Sousa's career, his inspiration for writing that patriotic march while he was overseas. So just want to give a huge shout out to Susanna for doing a fantastic job and her teacher for making sure that that was ready to win. So thank you guys for letting us slide in a little late.
Good job.
Thank you, guys. Now on to board members' observations. You have any?
I've got one. It's quick. Dr. Justice hit on it. Dr. Seuss Day read, well, I guess it was kind of a week for us, wasn't really the day. But I went and read to some classes on Tuesday. And it was my son and my daughter's class. My son's 3rd grade, and he was super stoked to see me and very excited. And the kids were asking great questions. And then 5th graders were a little bit different. Now, they still had fun. They asked a lot of different questions, but I'm glad my daughter wasn't too embarrassed to allow me to still read to her class. So a big shout out to Mark Page and Axon Elementary.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else?
I have one. I just wanted to take this opportunity to highlight an event that's happening a week from today. I know that our middle and high school schools have been putting it out, but I wanted to, in case someone hears it here and they haven't yet. But next Monday, the 18th, from 5:30 to 7:30 at Blue Ridge Community College is Light the Night, and there will be free Chick-fil-A and candy for middle and high school students. But it's a good event of a young lady who tried to commit suicide and was thankfully unsuccessful, but she is a speaker. It's really incredible. So there will be a lot of awesome things, and it's a really good opportunity, and it's free. So I would encourage any parents of teenagers to please go. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
I would like to say that I attended the conference. There was a 3-day training seminar for this event, and we had a lot of our SOR officers there. It was a hard topic for 3 days, but I can tell you that Henderson County showed up strong. And we had a lot of counselors that were there, a lot of interaction, and I'm very proud of our district for doing that. So this is a worthwhile event. I would encourage you to go.
was just going to say, Ms. Norman, Mr. Craven and I had a wonderful visit to Hillendale last week, and the EC program there, their assistants and their teachers, it's just incredible. I mean, it was magical being in those rooms. It really was.
I made a buddy.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I helped him. He was having a little problem on the floor and didn't want to get up and go to his classroom. And I don't know what it was. He saw my boots or something, and
Popped up.
he popped right up, grabbed my hand, and we walked. I don't know, all the way down the hallway. So it was fun.
Yes, thank you. Public comments. First, Ms. Cher Silvius. Afternoon, ma'am.
If you can hear me. I just want to thank you all. The job that you do is so important, and it's been an honor and a blessing because I've met many of you, have worked with some of you, Shannon Marlowe and Mr. Garrett. So I appreciate everything that you do. I want to talk about school choice, and I know we've had some of these people speak before about that, and I find that it's just an extremely important thing to think about because the most vulnerable students are the ones that the school choice is opening options to. And a lot of them don't have a choice because of their economic levels of living. And so charter schools, unlike public schools, can be closed or shut down if they're not operating properly. And public schools should have the competition. You should have a standard that you stand up to, not just what a school board may think, but or a state level, but they should compete against other school systems to improve their system, and that the allocated funds helps that. Money speaks. And so I'm just highly supportive of the school choice. In lieu of Black History Month just happening, I wanted to talk about Dr. Thomas Sowell, who was an author of 45 books, a native here in North Carolina, Gastonia, came from a Black family of sharecroppers, and both of his parents died at before the age of 9, and he moved to Harlem and had gone to a school up there, and due to his intellect, somebody afforded him the ability to go to a more elite school in that time. Dr. Thomas Sowell says that the schooling back then, he was born in 1930, was much better than what our school standards are today. He is if you're not familiar with him, he is an extreme intellect, teaching economics, intellectual history, and social policies and institutions. He started off as a Marxist and switched to being a conservative, and the reason why he said is because of facts. He goes, it's just proven that standards matter, and that is why he believes in school choice. And so I just want to present that to you and hope that you would be open for such thing here. So thank you.
Thank you. Mary Landry, who would like to speak about League of Women Voters Observer Team. I read that correctly? Welcome. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Hope you all fine. I'm kind of short, but you can still see me. Anyway, my name is Mary Landry, and I am a member of the Henderson County League of Women Voters and a member of the League's Observer Team, the team that attends and reports on local government meetings. So that's why you'll see me almost every meeting back there scribbling down every word you say. The League has promoted open government since its founding. The Observer team facilitates that by being present at public meetings and reporting to the League and to interested citizens on the issues that might concern the League. More broadly, the League is a grassroots, nonpartisan organization with goals to encourage informed and active participation in government, increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influence public policy through education and advocacy. That's why we can work so well together. The League believes that an equitable, quality public education is critical for students. As a retired educator, I know how important the school board is in ensuring that that happens. As you make decisions impacting our public schools, it is important that you hear from the public and the public hears from you. I really thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you. Next, Amy Lynn Holt. Miss Amy Lynn Holt, speak about the agenda and calendar. Welcome, thank you.
Hi. There's two things that I wanted to talk to you about. One is the calendar. We had an election, a primary election last Tuesday with all children on campuses and our campuses being utilized. Thousands of people, and we've spent millions of dollars trying to make our schools safer. So we had on February 16th, we had a district professional development day with no students on campuses. And then on Friday, we had another teacher work day. That could have easily been swapped for the 5th, any of those. I took the liberty to scroll to 25-26 calendar that was approved. So we will have another primary election. It should be on March 3rd. On March 13th, which is the Friday before spring break, there is a teacher work day. And then on February 20th, a district professional development day. I would like to see one of those swapped for the 3rd, so I'm formally requesting that. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the agenda. I talked about this a couple of months ago. I'm going to go through it again because maybe y'all didn't understand my request. There is no way for me to go right now. I have the agenda pulled up. And there is no way for me to know anything that you guys are discussing. Right now, you have 10 policies that you're reviewing today. I can't see anything on them. I'm begging you to please put a link on the agenda so that it's for the public like it is for you. I know there's personnel stuff, whatever, that, the public doesn't need to see, but all of this stuff, if I wanted to talk to you about Policy 101 today, general neutral language, before you guys voted on it, I can't. I don't have rights to know what that is. And for sake of transparency, I think we, the public, deserve to know what you're talking about. So I talked about this once before. I'm going to say it slower this time, so maybe you guys get it. If not, you'll be hearing from me in April, May, June, and July. I'll be begging you to please do it each month. And I know I didn't get it. I was previously on this board, and I didn't go in and look at the agenda like the public does, so I'm sure it's not really occurred to you guys that you can't view that stuff because you guys get it and you have the links. So I'm just asking, please, it would be awesome for us to be able to know what you guys are talking about ahead of time. Appreciate it. Thanks for all you do.
And then Mr. John Hobbs. I'd like to speak about gender neutral language. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm the Reverend Dr. John Hobbs, a resident of Henderson County and a retired pastor. I have a granddaughter and a grandson who attend Henderson County schools. I'm somewhat puzzled, and maybe your explanation hints at that, if I understand what the board is doing, why the board is proposing to utilize the use of pronouns of his and her throughout its policy. You said that your explanation for the gender-neutral language policy was that you were going to create a more readable product, and thus you were electing to utilize the term he and his in a gender-neutral manner throughout the policy. Admitting that working to make the policy documents more readable, that is a great goal. However, using only one pronoun, the masculine one at that, does not make the policy more readable. Actually, changing the pronoun to he or his throughout the policy makes it more confusing and harder to read and to interpret. Doing so also makes the policy discriminatory, period. In today's culture, the pronouns of he and his mean male. It is not a gender-neutral term. To use only masculine pronoun excludes more than half of the administrators, educators, students, staff, parents, etc., within this community. And even if you say it is not intended that the policy to discriminate using exclusionary male policy pronouns does make the policy discriminatory. It is not only are the male pronouns discriminatory, using male pronouns exclusively also promotes, maintains, and perpetuates a gender bias culture slanted toward maleness as superior, and thus devaluates females and ultimately works to strengthen a culture of patriarchy that does psychological and sociological damage, both to male and females within our community. Words matter. How they are used matter. As someone who made their livelihood creating and choosing the words that I used in public discourse very carefully, I know words matter. Words have power. I find your intent to move to utilize his and her gender-neutral pronouns, his exclusively, is unacceptable. Do not insult my intelligence by saying that they are not discriminatory. I invite you to find other ways to make the policies more readable, not at the expense of equality. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
I can, Mr. Hobbs, you'll step back up, please. I think I can provide some clarity.
Thank you.
Under this says policy updates. We're actually asking to remove that policy.
Oh.
That's what the action will be. So these are to be rescinded.
Awesome.
These are some policies that have been dangling. This language, the proper language, is already in other policies in existence. I hope you'll stay for this portion.
I will.
Because this will be very self-explanatory when we get to that part.
Good, and that makes the point that if we could have access to what you all...
You do have access to the policies. We'll show you exactly where you can get to every single one of these policies.
Thank you, thank you.
I don't know if we have another one, but I do think that Ms. Holt has a point, though, of linking everything on our agenda, similar to what the county commissioners do when we are approved these the week before the board meeting, right? So you link them for us, they need to be linked on our website so that we don't have any confusion as to what we're doing.
The only issue, though, as I understand it, is if when we do link them, they all have to be ADA compliant documents, and that some documents are very difficult to do.
So we can do that. We'll have to make sure that we link everything probably on Friday to make sure that they are ADA compliant.
They have
Because
to be PDFs, or they have to be
well,
readable, or?
it's a little different. And our standard that we try to follow is to make sure that we don't have anybody who can come back and say that they weren't able to access them in their necessary way. There's Office of Civil Rights manages that. I have been in a district before that's had to go through their website piece by piece, page by page, to make sure that everything is ADA compliant. I think there's a way we can do that. Mr. Atkins and I have talked about that. So if that is the desire of the board, it's your agenda, and if that is the desire of the board, then we can make that happen. But we'll have to make sure that we do some things in a little bit different manner.
No, I know that the ADA, like if you're seeing disabled or something, that you have to be able to hear what we're putting on there. And I know that is a process, but there are a lot of people that handling that now. I mean, you can, even if Facebook, whatever. I don't know how you get it done. I just think it needs to get done. Whatever we need to throw at it, you're absolutely right. We need to link all of that online so people can see it.
Mr. Joe Elliott, Teacher Protection. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon. Thanks for your time. It is a shame that politics plays an ever-increasing role in the education of our children, but that is the world we live in these days. So I want to address a couple of results from the primary last Tuesday. One of the November candidates for North Carolina governor has a lengthy history of attacks on the LGBTQ community. He constantly spews anti-Semitic garbage. He is a Holocaust denier. He has referred to people of color as, quote, muddle-headed Negroes, apes, and monkeys, end quote. He repeatedly denies the effects of climate change while blindly ignoring the science. His worldview is rooted in his praise for the writings of Adolf Hitler, Chairman Mao, Pol Pot, and Fidel Castro. Do we believe these dictators' thoughts should influence our schools or our state? He has admitted to paying for the abortion of a woman he impregnated. It was expedient to terminate that pregnancy, and it was later expedient to jump on the anti-abortion bandwagon when it served his need to advance his political ambitions. He has advocated for removing science and social studies from the first grade through the fifth grade curriculum, and he wants to abolish the State Board of Education. Do we want no science or social studies taught until sixth grade? Do we want to disband the State Board of Education? A November candidate for state superintendent of public schools brags about her 16 years of educational experience, all 16 years in a homeschooling environment. Her other major victory, according to her website, is leading the effort to eliminate critical race theory in North Carolina schools, a boast, by the way, that is without substance since there is no mention of CRT in the state's social studies curriculum standards. She also claims that North Carolina public schools are, quote, socialist indoctrination centers. Is that your assessment of our schools? She's accused our public schools of, quote, teaching children to hate our country and training students in transgender theory, whatever that means. Again, is this what is happening in our schools? She promises that, quote, you better believe that our teachers will be well-versed in the true history of our great nation if I am elected. I think she really means she wants to rewrite our history. In my mind, it is now time to stand up in defense of our teachers, our administrators, and our schools. Our schools are underfinanced and our teachers are underpaid. We must recognize and celebrate the love and passion for our kids that teachers bring into those classrooms every single day. We do not need them to become political pawns, and that is exactly what these two candidates are all about. They are seeking power. They in no way are concerned about our kids or our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Carol Cannon, speaking on workforce housing for teachers. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
Doing well. Hope y'all are doing well. The concern that I want to address today is the retention of new teachers. As a school district, we need to be concerned not only about attracting new teachers, but keeping them beyond the first 2 years. And I've heard that several promising young teachers have left Hendersonville early in their career. There are many factors, but one is they cannot afford to live here. And one reason is the salaries that the school district provides. And I realize that you as a school board does not control how much the General Assembly designates in the state budget for public school education. Nor do you control how much the County Board of Commissioners budgets for the school district. And thus, there are outside limits placed upon the school board in the amount of money you can pay teachers and other staff. And as an aside, I hope Mr. Egolf can address how much the County Board of Commissioners gives to the school district when he is elected in the fall. But it occurred to me that there is another way to make it more affordable for young adults to live here. And that is to address the issue of workforce housing in our area. And a possible way to approach that issue comes from my years of working in the rural Carolinas, North and South Carolina. In several towns, people would point out to me a house that they called, that's the old teacherage. Well, that was a new word to me. So I had to ask, what's a teacherage? And I was told that years before, the town provided housing for young teachers. And that was similar to a parsonage, the housing provided by a church for the parson, that is, the pastor or preacher. And so in the case of a teacherage or a parsonage, some expenses for the housing are paid by the persons living in the house, but the actual property is owned by the employer. So my suggestion is that the school district consider ways to provide economical housing for teachers. You might consider working with the County Board of Commissioners or City Council with this. I know that in my daughter's case, she taught in rural South Dakota for several years. And the school district provided units that teachers could rent at a low cost. That made it easier for the teachers to live on the salary they were paid. Our students will benefit when their teachers don't have to worry about living expenses. Finding ways to offer affordable housing for new teachers is one way to address that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cannon. And Mr. Chris Walters, speaking on school funding. Afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to talk about the Republican budget that was passed in the General Assembly in October, specifically about the voucher money for vouchers. It was $600 million for this that was allotted for this year, and it will be about $3 to $4 billion in the next few years. Some speakers said, previous speakers said that it was probably, these vouchers were to help lower income or disadvantaged people. That's absolutely not the case. In fact, when it was offered just to the lower income people, it was undersubscribed. There were not enough takers. So they made it higher and higher and higher. Now, there's no income limit to what, you can be a millionaire and still get, you can take money from the Henderson County Public Schools and attend a private school. What are their interests? That's another story I'll save for another time. Okay. Here's what the beginning salaries are for teachers of $41,000 a year the first year. It's not enough to encourage new teachers to enter the field. After 10 years, a teacher will earn only about $8,000 more than in her first year. Teacher pay tops out at $55,000 a year, even after 25 years. After between 15 years and 25 years, it'll go up. You can teach for 30 years, and you won't see much raise in your last 10 years. So obviously, the legislature is not interested in career teachers. It's not interested in protecting the profession of teachers. How many parents want to send their children to college to be teachers who have only this dismal Republican future to look forward to? Not too many. How many of you would want to start your careers over with this kind of budget in the future? Nobody, right? You have children? You're going to send them to college to enter the public school system? No, you're not. We want our schools to succeed. If we continue to vote for Republicans, and it is a partisan issue, in the General Assembly, they are not funding the schools adequately. We are hurting our schools and everyone that works there. There are over 13,500 students in these schools and over 900 teachers. Republican lawmakers are failing them. Henderson County Public Schools is the largest employer in the county. We can help the local economy by building up our school system. Elect lawmakers who will fund our public schools. Stop funding the corporations and the already wealthy. That's the fixation of our present legislators. The corporations and already wealthy do not need the money. Fund our teachers, administrators, secretaries, custodians, counselors, coaches, bus drivers, and all our public school workers. Elect people who will fund our public schools. That will help everyone in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then Miss Maya Kaihan to read for scripture for Joyce Marsteller. I don't know if I'm saying all those names right, but
It's Maya Khan.
Maya Khan, excuse me.
It's okay.
Welcome.
Yeah, I didn't want to get up here. This is not my arena. I don't pay attention to the school board issues. And most of the time I'm here, I really don't know what you guys are talking about. But I love that woman. And she wanted me to read this scripture, and I'm doing it out of respect to her. Since she put me up there, I just do want to say take just a minute to say something about her. She almost died a couple weeks ago. It's literally a miracle that she comes out here and that she's out here today. I know there's a lot of hostility towards God's word in the name Jesus, and I understand why. And I think it's because we don't see enough examples of people who actually live it, who don't just wave the Jesus flag. And I understand that hostility. I come from a Jewish background, and that word was inflammatory, and God's word was inflammatory to me, but that woman really lives it. She's the real deal. And I am up in her life, and I know it. And I don't trust everybody who waves that flag, but I trust her. And if she asks me to do something, I come from a culture, we very much honor our elders. And so I'm going to read this scripture for her, but I think it has more meaning knowing that she literally almost died in ICU about a week and a half ago. Okay, Joyce, here we go. Psalm 103, a psalm of David. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgiveth all thine iniquities, who healeth all thy diseases, who redeemeth thy life from destruction, who crowneth thee with loving kindness and tender mercies, who satisfieth thy mouth with good things, so that thy youth is renewed like the eagles.
Amen. Amen. Amen, sister. Forward.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. And finally, again, Ms. Joyce Marsteller.
Yes, thank you
Encouragement.
so
Welcome.
much. Oh, I'm so glad to be here alive. I might have been here dead, but I'm here alive. And I'm so glad to be here. And I want you to know that Jesus put me here. This was not my thing, but Jesus said I had to show up because he loves you. And because he loves you, I have to be here. I have one thing that he told me that I must ask. Do you know Jesus Christ as your personal Savior? That's a yes or a no. If it's a him-ha, it's a no. If it's a yeah, it's a yes. And I don't have the faintest idea what you guys are doing. I came because I am here praying for you and encouraging you and wanting you to know that you are the most important thing because you have the reins to his children. He said, forsake not the children to come unto me. And he meant it. You remember the pictures of him holding children? Kids are so important. And you are the example to them. Now there's a school board election coming up. I'm going to study, and I know I'm going to vote for you, but I don't know the rest of you, and I don't know how to vote, but Jesus will tell me, and I'm excited about that, and I'm excited for you because of the opportunity you have, because words do matter, and his word is the rule book. If you go by his word, you can't go wrong. And remember, the Holy Spirit never disagrees with himself. So therefore, if you find someone who is really on fire for God, I don't mean lukewarm. Lukewarm, they might get to heaven, but who cares? I want the firemen. I want the people out there going. I want them to care about Jesus Christ and who he is and who he has to bring to us. Now, I came from death's door, so I have a pretty good idea of what happens. And it ain't pretty. If you're not saved, it ain't pretty. I know. I was in a demonic spirit attack. You might not understand what that is, but trust me, I know. Well, I gotta watch my time. And I know that he is taking you on the right steps because you started your meeting with a moment of silence. I am so proud of you. Now, it's the right step. The next thing is to actually pray. And don't be ashamed of it. Prayer is not to be ashamed of. Prayer is to be excited about, thrilled about. Know that you have a purpose and a plan that Jesus Christ is interested in. Thank you. See, I beat that thing.
Thank you, Ms. Marsteller. Okay, take a look over the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion when ready.
I'll make a motion to approve consent as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. There is not any old business. New business, Mr. Bernie Sosha on the North Carolina lottery application. Thank you, sir. Welcome. Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I've been good. I spent the day with you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, so this afternoon, we have another lottery application, the second one of the year. Get to my right page here. Yes, a lottery application of available funds when it was presented to us from the county commissioners, $235,585. We did an initial $401,000 earlier in the year for $637,000 for the year to date. This is the same one that goes to pay Mills River and Hillendale. We got another year and a half, 2 years on this one.
Any questions? Take a motion.
I make a motion to move the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve the North Carolina Education Lottery application as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And then again, contracts and purchases in excess of 90,000.
Yes, sir. This one is a good one for us to get taken care of. Consolidated Waste Services for the next 3 years comes to us from the recommendation of the Maintenance Department to use Consolidated Waste Services. It'll be approximately $180,000 over each of the next 3 years, so clearly over the 90,000 threshold. And they recommend to continue using them due to their good service and continued consistent pricing that they've had.
Any questions?
A lot of garbage.
Is that a question or a
It's a statement.
Okay.
It's a lot of money for a lot of garbage.
Take a motion.
I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve execution of the contract with Consolidated Waste Services as presented.
Second. Any questions?
Did we have to do an RFP or anything on this?
We did one a few years ago, and this is a continuation of what they were selected in the last time we did one.
Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
You can sit down for a second.
Yep. Thank you.
And then Mr. Scott Rhodes on a Teaching Fellows Memorandum of Understanding.
Thank you, Mr. Egoff. I won't take a whole lot of your time. I'm excited to bring to you today an approval for our MOU as we get ready to work in partnership with a grant that we received for 4 years of $55,000 a year. It's working with the North Carolina Teaching Fellows. So I'm going to run through this real quick for you. We are one of 20 school districts in North Carolina to be accepted for this plan. And one of the things that we would be doing is working with recruitment of teachers and creating a pipeline here in Henderson County. A lot like the teachers as a profession that we've had in our district for the last 3 or 4 years. And so this would just be a part of that process. And what that would look like, as I go through this with you real quick, we have a couple goals of what we would propose to you as we get ready to go to apply for this grant as we, again, have been approved. But again, as we start to look at the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program, as you know, years ago, it was a pipeline that ended that has really had a negative impact on the recruitment of educators in North Carolina. They have since re-implemented the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program, but it only encapsulates teachers who are going into math, science, EC, and now elementary education. And so part of this grant is for us to be able to have 10 of our students from Henderson County apply for the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program. But a part of this is also us being able to kind of create our own Henderson County Public Schools Teaching Fellow Program as well. And so what we're going to be able to do with this this $55,000 is we would be able to take this and use $45,000 to be able to offer some scholarships for folks who are leaving Henderson County to become teachers. Now, some of that may be for students who are in our TAP program, who are going into something other than science and math, EC, or elementary ed, but it's also for people that we already have currently working for us, people who are on a residency license, folks like that we're able to help support through this process to help them get across the finish line. It also comes with, as we think about a return to teach, there's a commitment that if you are going to receive these dollars, that you are going to make a commitment to come back and work for our school system. So those two are the things that we're talking about here as part of this process. And as you'll see, this budget allocation that we're going to be proposing is using $45,000 towards the scholarships and tuition reimbursement, also helping with some of our TAP program, using some of those dollars, also making sure we're advertising and promoting this within our district, again, as we work to build that pipeline. So if you start thinking about what really is our commitment for these dollars, because anytime we are receiving funds, there's always a catch, but really for us, it's about the recruitment process. For us out recruiting the people within our district and our students to be able to apply for the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program, to work on creating this pipeline, and then also making sure that we're participating in all the pilot activities as you can read below. Their commitment is contingent on these funds remaining available. We're going to get $55,000 annually for 4 years. Really, for us, it's making sure we have that number of students who are going through the application process, which is at least 10. Hopefully, 5 of those students would be selected and come back to us. And then we would also use those dollars for the people that are not selected for the North Carolina Teaching Fellows to be a part of the HCPS Teaching Fellows Program. And so we would award those funds and help create and build a pipeline of teachers to come back to Henderson County. And so really what we need for you is the approval for this MOU before we can receive the funds. Questions?
Can you back up? I want to see the requirements that we're making after they receive the money.
Pull it back up.
Right there. Back one. No, okay, fine. Keep going. That's not what I'm looking for. It said they have to come back by 2028. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so by the time they finish the program, theoretically, by 2028, we would have people in our schools working.
It's just for 1 year. You're making them make a commitment to work in our schools, but only for a year?
Based off the amount of money that they receive for us would be a commitment for those dollars, yes, sir.
1 year. Go ahead.
I've got several questions on it. So tuition reimbursement, one thing that you have to know is that that is going to be counted as income for them if they do get any tuition reimbursement, correct?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Any school in North Carolina that has an education program they can attend?
Yes, sir.
And then, so you said it's for some teachers that we have now. How are you going to allocate that $45,000 in scholarships and tuition reimbursement?
So our goal is to make sure we maximize every one of those $45,000. So it really depends on who applies.
We can allocate it any way we want to.
We have complete flexibility, and that's why you see that number put all in one box of $45,000. We don't want to put ourselves in a position where we can't use those dollars in a way that's going to have maximum benefit. Because again, it depends on how many people apply for the scholarship in any given year.
And when does it start?
Next year.
So clearly you can't have any, well, I mean, maybe you can. There would have to be teachers that are already here that were going to be using those first dollars.
Possibly some of them, but again, you got to remember, for some of those folks who are wanting to get into that education pathway, the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program, right, is a separate. That would be paid within itself. That's a different scholarship program. So that's for anybody that wants to be a math teacher, science, EC, or even elementary ed. But we also have teachers that are, students here in our school system that want to go out and be an art teacher. They may want to be a social studies teacher. They may want to go into CTE. So this will give us the flexibility to offer them opportunities to receive scholarship money as well, along with people that are currently in those residency license programs. They can apply as well.
Okay, so you're giving them a scholarship. What if they don't come back? What if they say, you know what, being an art teacher's not for me?
So we're going to be working with Campbell Shatley to make sure that we have everything drawn up. So before we start giving money away, there's going to be a commitment on both ends. Here's what you're going to get from us. Here's what we expect from you. Because I want to go back to one of the things that we know about the teacher pipeline, and I really appreciate the personalities who spoke about that. We know that there has to be a hook, right? The people who actually live here, who've gone to school here, who already have connections to our community, are the people who most likely have the ability to go become teachers and live here. And so for us to be able to do that, this is, again, an opportunity for us to create this pipeline for people to have an opportunity to be able to go and receive some kind of dollars to help. And I can speak for just having a student right now who has received just some scholarship money. It's not a huge amount, but when you start adding it up over 4 years and you start thinking about $20,000, that's huge to a family.
And so is there a minimum and a maximum number of people that you're going to be able to target with this, like say next year?
So
Minimum's 5, right? Or
So for the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program, we are going to make sure part of that MOU and the agreement is we're going to have at least 10 students who will apply from Henderson County for the North Carolina Teaching Fellows, with a hope at least 5 of those applicants would be accepted into the Teaching Fellows. The second part of that is now we've got this $55,000 that we as a district have control of. We're going to use that money to help create a pipeline for educators that are not just in the science, math, EC, and elementary.
and who's deciding who gets what?
That'll be up to the leadership team and people within the district.
Mr. Rhodes, years ago, when the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program started, they awarded 400 Teaching Fellows scholarships in North Carolina, full scholarships for those 400. At that point in time, I was at East Henderson High School, and we had 9 students who got that grant money free for applying to the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program. This program is absolutely wonderful for a recruitment program for our county. And I would like to see it increase later on as we go along in this new program.
I appreciate you saying that. This really does create an opportunity for us here in Henderson County to help work on that pipeline of educators coming back to our school system.
One last question for me. How long, I know it says as long as the money is there. Do we have any idea of how long this program?
Right now, what they're telling us is for 4 years. And really, again, as we start thinking about the MOU, and I think you have a copy of that,
Yeah.
it really is just basically for us is making sure we live up to our commitments. And the biggest commitment is making sure we have at least 10 applicants a year who's applying to the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program. Now, the good news is we have, I would guess probably somewhere around 40 students in the TAP program. And so we would expect those folks who are wanting to become teachers all to apply. Yeah, absolutely.
There also presents an opportunity with this funding, unlike the normal Teaching Fellows funding, that they can use this at community colleges. They can use this at other institutions. So if we have some folks that are wanting to do a 2-year and then transfer, that money will go a lot farther necessarily than paying at a private school or a state university, a 4-year university. So the benefit to this money is it's completely flexible for us to use internally. And Mr. Egoff asked the question, where's this money coming from? Well, it's coming from the Teaching Fellows Program because not as many people are applying for Teaching Fellows scholarships now. So the allocations, they're not getting enough applications, and this is a way for them to seed some money out to try to get their profile a little bit higher, and then also to give us the opportunity to target some of those areas that don't fall under the auspices of Teaching Fellows right now.
Cool.
Any other questions? Take a motion.
I move that Henderson County Board of Public Education approve the memorandum of understanding between the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program and Henderson County Public Schools.
A second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Next, we have the 22-23 audit report. Mr. Socha again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I have a very brief part in this presentation. That is just to introduce Mr. Terry Anderson with Gould Killian, who his firm performed the audit again this year for us. We are very thankful that they have been with us and remain with us each year. They do a fantastic job helping us throughout the year and do a very efficient job getting the audit done. It's kind of exciting for us. It's kind of like our Super Bowl here, having him up here. I don't know if he has a halftime show or anything, but it's good for us. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. But I'll let Mr. Anderson come up and share the good news.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. I've been here for 6 years, and I think I've seen you every year, so I appreciate you being here.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here today and for allowing our firm to conduct the audit of the board's financial records for the 2022-2023 year. I would like to again review the way that we perform the audit procedures. Then I'll review the results of the governmental funds, which include the local current expense fund or general fund, the state public school, federal grants, capital outlay, other restricted, and individual school funds. Following that, I'll highlight the results for the enterprise funds, which include your child nutrition and child care funds. And then lastly, I'll summarize the results of the audit. Under the risk-based approach, auditors are required to gain an understanding of the nature of the Board of Public Education's business operations and environment. Because of this, our audit procedures are designed to analyze the board's operations and the policies and procedures that are in use in order to determine whether these processes are operating as intended. Part of this process is conducting the interviews with the finance staff of the central office, but also interviewing other staff, both at the central office as well as at the individual schools, in order to gain a better understanding of the internal controls and segregation of duties that are in place. A key component of a risk-based approach is to look for fraud and the risk of fraud taking place. Part of these processes are the fraud risk questionnaires that we issue to selected staff as well as to board members. The board should be cognizant of where fraud risks are with the Board of Public Education and the steps that management takes to mitigate those risks. An auditor is not charged with the responsibility of finding fraud, but if any fraud is found or if the auditor believes that there is a risk of fraud taking place, then the auditor is required to discuss this with management and the board and to determine if additional audit procedures are necessary. Once the audit team has gained an understanding of the board's operations, then the next step is to test compliance with the adopted policies and procedures that are in place. Since every transaction cannot be examined, we structure our testing based on where we determine the greatest risks are and on amounts that we consider to be significant to the Board of Public Education's financial statements. As mentioned, we also audit the individual schools. A staff member of the finance department carries out some of the audit procedures for the individual schools. We review that work and also conduct interviews at several schools each year on a rotating basis. The goal is the same as with the central office, to be able to determine if the policies and procedures that are in place are operating as intended and determining that the internal controls and segregation of duties are adequate and operating efficiently. We determine that the internal control and the segregation of duties, both at the central office and at the individual school level, have been appropriately designed and are generally operating as intended. Also, as I've reported to the board previously, we're required to conduct an audit of the board's federal and state financial assistance. We're required to rotate which programs that are audited for compliance each year. We verify that the internal controls and segregation of duties over federal and state awards are in place and operating effectively. and we test the selected programs for compliance with the requirements for each program as set forth by the various governmental agencies and the Department of Public Education Instruction. This display, as we begin to look at some of your financial information included in the report, reports the governmental fund revenues, which include your local current, state public school, federal grants, capital outlay, other restricted and individual schools. For the 2023 year end, you had total revenues in the governmental funds of $213 million. This is an increase of $62.6 million from the 2021-2022 year, which is skewed somewhat because the Hendersonville High School project closed during the 2023 year. So $60.9 million of revenue and expenses were recognized in the capital outlay fund related to that. So if you back out that construction project, then your revenues actually increased by $1.7 million for the 2022-2023 year. This $1.7 million reflects a 1.1% increase in comparison to the previous year. And then more than 15% in the general fund and 52% in state public school and federal grants funds are represented in those revenue numbers. The remaining 33% is in capital outlay, other restricted and individual school funds. And again, if you exclude the construction project from those numbers, then the 21% is represented in the general fund, 72% in state public school and federal grants, and the remaining 7% in capital outlay, other restricted and individual school funds. This display also presents the same information detailed in Exhibit 4 of your audit report, which provides a summary of revenues and expenditures for all of the governmental funds. In comparing these exhibits with prior year amounts, revenues in the general or local current expense fund increased from 2021 to 2022, and then again by almost $1.4 million from 2022 to 2023. Your special revenue reflect a significant increase from 2001 to 2022, and then a decrease of $1.4 million or 1.2% for the 2023 year as funding related to COVID decreased from the previous 2 years. And capital projects funds reflect a decrease in 2022, and then a substantial increase with that construction project being completed in the 2023 year. This slide details the breakdown of your government fund revenues for the 2023 year into the major revenue sources as presented also on pages 17 and 18. Revenue from the state of North Carolina was 43.7% of the total. Henderson County was 44.1%, again reflecting that construction project. 8.7% was from federal sources. 2.2% generated at the individual school level, and the remaining 1.3% from miscellaneous revenue sources. On the expenditure side, you had total expenditures for the year in the governmental funds of $212.6 million compared to $147.3 million for the previous year. And then backing out the construction item, you had $152 million for the current year compared to $147 million the previous year. So that's an increase of 44.4%, including the capital outlay, and a 3% increase excluding the capital outlay items. And 56.3% of your expenditures were in instructional services, 12% in system-wide support services, 30.3% in debt service and capital outlay, and 1.4% in ancillary and non-program charges. And then again, excluding the completed contract and the capital outlay fund, your percentages were 79% instructional, almost 17% for system-wide support, 2.2% for debt service and capital outlay, and then 1.9% for ancillary and non-program. This display presents the expenditure comparison for the past 3 fiscal years. As you can see, general fund expenditures increased from 2021 to 2022, and then it was $3.5 million higher in the 2023 year than the previous year. This increase is offset by corresponding increase in revenues, resulted in $7,600 surplus in your general fund for the year. Special revenue funds have increased in the 2021 and 2022 years, and then decreased in 2023, as I mentioned, as some of the COVID funding decreased in the most recent year. And the capital projects expenditures were pretty flat for the 2021-2022 year, and then spiked in 2023 with the closing of the Hendersonville High School. This slide presents a breakdown of your governmental fund expenditures by functional type. Also is presented on pages 17 and 18 of the report. As noted earlier, instructional services make up 56.3% of the total governmental fund spending. 12% is in system-wide support, 30.1% in debt service and capital outlay, with the remaining 1.6% in ancillary services and non-program charges, again with the higher percentages if you back out the capital outlay item. This presentation is related to Exhibit 5 on pages 20 through 23. This represents the general fund, state public school fund, federal grants fund, and other restricted fund expenditures budget versus actual by the major functional categories. In all of your functional areas, your actual spending for the year was less than budgeted. Management and board continue to maintain good fiscal control in managing the budget for all of your funds. Then moving to your general fund balance, which is presented on Exhibit 3 in your report. Total fund balance in the general fund remained at $7.5 million, same as it was for the 2022 year. There was a small increase of $7,600 compared to the 2022 year. And that's a combined increase of more than $4.4 million over the last 5 years. And $5.4 million of your $7.5 million was unrestricted and unassigned fund balance, which represents a decrease of roughly $818,000 in comparison to the 2022 amount. Your unrestricted and unassigned fund balance is 16.9% of your general fund expenditures, which represents a decrease of 4.9% compared to the 2022 amount of 21.8%. But maintaining an unrestricted and unassigned amount in excess of $5 million is a reflection of sound fiscal management by both management and the board. This slide just exhibits the allocation of the general fund balance between your restricted and assigned and your unrestricted and unassigned for each of the 3 years, 2021, 2022, and 2023. The restricted and assigned is basically items that are restricted by state statute or where you have designated fund balance and appropriated it in the next year's budget. It just shows you those items and then the change in the unrestricted and unassigned. It went from $5.1 million in 2021 up to $6.2 million in 2022, and then down to $5.4 million in the most recent year. And then moving on to the enterprise funds, these are considered business type activities and financed in whole or in part by fees charged. Your enterprise funds include the School Food Service Fund and the Child Care Fund. The School Food Service has an unrestricted reserve of $3.5 million at June 30, 2023, which is a decrease of roughly $500,000 from the previous year. And the Child Care Fund has an unrestricted reserve of $3.4 million at year end, which is an increase of roughly $500,000 over the previous year. And lastly, I'd like to just briefly review the audit results with you. We issued an unmodified audit opinion, which means in my firm's judgment, the financial statements presented in your report are a fair presentation of the board's financial standing at June 30, 2023, and for the year ended. There were no significant audit adjustments. We had no single audit findings or question costs. As mentioned earlier, based on our analysis and audit procedures, we determined the internal controls and segregation of financial duties have been designed effectively and appear to be operating as intended. In our recommendations letter to the board, we did highlight several areas where we believe that some improvement can be made in operating efficiency related to reconciliation of certain accounts in the various operating funds for the board. On behalf of my firm, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to provide our services to the board. I'd like to express my thanks to management and staff, particularly Mr. Garrett and Mr. Sosha, and the administrative and finance staffs for their expertise and cooperation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, the only question I have, maybe I missed it, Gould Killian CPA?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a new firm, right? I thought we were,
It's sort of a new firm. Carlin and Anderson had two partners, Mr. Carlin and myself. Mr. Carlin has decided he wants to retire. So we didn't have enough younger people ready to move into his slot.
Gotcha.
So we merged with Gould Killian July 1st of last year.
Okay.
So I'm a partner with Gould Killian now. But all of our staff that did the audit and everything's the same as.
Yeah, that was the only thing that threw me off. I was used to Carlin and Anderson, and then I saw Gould Killian, and figured I missed something.
Yeah, it took a while.
I bet it did. Well, I appreciate it. I know this is, I deal with financial statements a lot, and these governmental statements are very complex and can be convoluted, especially when you have multiple schools and you have to reconcile all the schools as well. So I really appreciate your work and your new firm's work on this audit. That's all I got.
Anybody else? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Okay, thank you all.
Now we have some policy updates. Mr. Carl Taylor, please. Hey, again, you okay?
I'm doing wonderful.
Great.
Hope you are. Good evening, board members. Before I jump into the 10 policy updates for this evening, I do want to just kind of go back over based on a conversation at our last month's board meeting about our website. And so since that meeting, some changes have been made. And hopefully it will provide easier access to our policies. And so anyone that's looking for our board policy manual now, if they go to that yellow ribbon where district is located, they just hover over district and it'll pop up below that another menu of options. And right there is the board policy manual. So it's a one click that takes you to where all of our policies then can be accessed. As soon as you go to that page, there's a link that takes you to our outside policy manual. That is all of our new policies that are through the School Board Association. And so that's what you see here on this page is that access to those newer policies. And so when you click on that link, it takes you to this page, and then that's where all of those policies then can be accessed. Pretty user-friendly once you get here. There's the options down the left column where the different categories of policies are provided for you, and then also there is a search bar up at the top that allows anyone to type in keywords that they may be trying to find within our policies. Then going back to that page where they accessed the newer policies, below that are these older policies. There are still 24 policies that date back to when they originated. Most of them originated in 1999. Some of them have not been touched since 1999. Some have. And so what we're going to try to work through beginning tonight is a process where we clean up these 24 policies. Some we're going to be able to recommend that they just be rescinded because either they're covered in newer policies, they're covered in state statute or state policy, and then others may require us to having conversations about new policies to consider adopting as well. All of this work that we've been doing has been in coordination with Ms. Lopez as well, getting her guidance as our legal counsel. So any questions there before?
Yeah. Is this only on the website, or can you access this through the app?
You should be on your, like on a smartphone?
phone. Yeah, like-
Yeah, you should be able to access it.
Check it out, sir.
I'm going to. You can continue.
All right, thank you, sir.
He's checking on you.
All right, so we'll jump into these 10 policies, and again, for all 10 of these policies, the recommendation is, or the request is to rescind them. And so I'll go through them one by one to kind of give you background as to why that request is being made for each one of these, and then if you have questions, please feel free to jump in. So we're going to begin with Policy 101, gender-neutral language that was referenced earlier in this meeting. And so Policy 101 may be rescinded as the North Carolina School Board Association policies are gender-neutral and purposefully written as to avoid confusion associated with using only one pronoun to refer to all students. So any questions on this policy? All right. Moving along then to Policy 301. School advisory councils. So Policy 301 may be rescinded since Policy 3430, School Improvement Plan, outlines school improvement team expectations. Any questions on that one? All right. Next one, Policy 411, pupil assignment from non-public schools or charter schools. Policy 411 may be rescinded since the policy's provisions are addressed in Policy 4120, domicile or residence requirements, Policy 3400, evaluation of student progress, and Policy 3450, class rankings. Any questions on this one? Okay. Moving along then to Policy 525, control of data processing materials. This policy may be rescinded as it is no longer applicable. Any questions on that one? All right. Policy 620, special programs, may be rescinded since the requirements for academically and intellectually gifted students and for homebound services are addressed in law, state board policy, and regulations. Any questions on that one? All right. Next one, Policy 700, disclaimer, may be rescinded since the policy's provisions are addressed in Policy 2400, board policies, Policy 7410, teacher contracts, Policy 7422, deputy, associate, assistant superintendent contracts, Policy 7425, school administrator contracts, and Policy 7940, classified personnel, suspension, and dismissal. Any questions on that one? Policy 727, injury and loss prevention, may be rescinded since the policy's provisions are addressed in Policy 4201/7271, injury and loss prevention. Any questions on that one? All right. Policy 825, volunteer capital projects. Policy 825 may be rescinded since the policy's provisions are addressed in Policy 8220, gifts and bequests. Any questions on that one? Policy 912, school bus safety belts, may be rescinded as the policy's provisions are addressed in Policy 6305, safety and student transportation services, and Policy 6315, drivers. Any questions on that policy? All right. Policy 950, child nutrition program, may be rescinded as the policy's provisions are addressed in Policy 6200, goals of school nutrition services, Policy 6210, organization of school nutrition services, and 6220, operation of school nutrition services. Any questions on that policy? All right, so those are the 10, again, that we've identified that may be rescinded at this time because of the way that they are covered in other current policies or other state laws. Mr. Egoff.
Any questions about this specifically, these last 10? First of all, we do appreciate the policies being updated on the website, so it is easier to find. I know there have been a lot of comments about finding the policies and everything, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think Mr. Craven was also trying to find it on the mobile site. Was that?
Well, all right, I went to the app. The app is not up to date. So I went directly to Harrison County Public Schools, nce.org, on my phone. And the phone site, in which 99, maybe 95% of people are actually, that's how they're going to access it. That's how I'm going to access it. I'm not going to go to my laptop, right? So to access it, you have to go to the three little lines up at the top. There is no link like you were showing. There's no banner. There's not able to be a banner, right? So you go to three little links. You have to go to district, and then there's a board policy manual. But when you click on board policy manual, it's all of our old policies, okay? Old policies, right? Then there's that black box to open the board policy manual, and then it comes to this landing page, okay? And then you have to click the three little lines again, and then you can start to get into the policy. So it's not exactly, still not very.
Not mobile
No.
user. So one thing, once we work through these 24 policies and everything gets converted into the newer policies, then once you go to our website, then it'll take you directly, once you select board
Once we
policies.
get rid of all these, then
Yes,
we'll
sir.
be able to land all of those there instead of landing them on a separate page, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, the purpose of this, and the reason we picked these 10 initially, is these are the ones that are clearly, easily rescinded. You're going to have more work through the next 14. I'll just warn you, you're going to have more work to look at those because some of them are going to cause you to have to think about, do you want to keep, do you want to not keep, because they are different policies and local policies. Once we get all of those wrapped into the NCSBA policy manual, the two-headed monster goes away. And then if you're talking about optimize, that could be a server and who we use for our web service as far as optimizing for mobile phone use.
Yeah. I just think, most parents, if I'm going to look at the menus for my kid's school for the week, I'm going to the app or to the web version. I'm not going on my home computer.
Yes.
And I want to do the same thing with policies. And honestly, like we link at the very top, like the link for our meeting to watch this live. I think we should really think about the agenda if we're having the link for the live watching this. Right underneath it is a link for the agenda with live links on it as well. And the policies do need to be just a little cleaner, so hopefully that cleans itself up here in however long it takes us to knock out these next 14 policies.
Yes, sir, we're working towards that.
Okay.
So a couple of notes, as Mr. Taylor mentioned, some of these have been there since 1999 and we've not touched them.
That's fun.
So, this is a way to get a good, clean, one spot. We'll have one landing page. That'll let us optimize then how to get to all these pieces.
All right.
I have a question. When is the agenda published for the public to see?
It's
So
just
people
that
have since Tuesday to have looked at this as well.
not all the links are always linked though, right?
Sure, no, I know the policies are not linked, but I just quickly pulled it up. So, it can be done. I get it's not super user-friendly, and I know that's kind of a pain in the butt, but, I don't know. It's not that it can't be done, and that we were preventing anyone from, it's just that it's not super easy.
Yeah.
Okay, I just was clarifying.
So how much longer will it take us to make sure that all these documents are ADA compliant before they can become live? Is that a heavy lift?
That's a Grant Atkins question.
All right.
Thank you, Grant.
And people will just have to understand if something's not got a live link, it may be because we could not make that document ADA accessible. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Once they're all in one spot, it should be that much easier to click on policies, and you can easily see
from Tuesday, the policy we're going to be discussing.
Right.
So it wouldn't be that difficult.
I'd like to make a motion to rescind policy 1 through 10, as presented.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the 2024 North Carolina School Board Association Legislative Committee Service, Dr. Revis,
Yes, thank you.
welcome.
In pulling up this, this letter from the North Carolina School Board Legislative Committee, each school board has the opportunity to nominate one of our members to serve on the North Carolina School Board Association's Legislative Committee. And we have to do that by vote. And you can read in the second paragraph the obligations and the focus of our selected person. And they would have to make an agreement and a commitment to be available for several meetings. Well, actually, Mrs. Dale reached out to me, and we've talked about this quite a bit. She is interested in becoming our nominee. And so I guess I would ask, do we need to open up the floor for other nominations, or how do we do this?
So I've done this a couple of previous times, and the board basically just took one person who had an interest in serving, made that the nominee, passed it on to the North Carolina School Board Association. The president then selects among the nominees in Region 8 for who will be the Region 8 representative for the coming year on the legislative committee. You see there, they meet 2 or 3 times a year to come up with the legislative policy that then goes to their website and becomes their advocacy for their General Assembly work.
I think you have a couple in-person meetings and then some virtual meetings. So, Mrs. Dale, thank you so much for your willingness to serve and to represent us. So,
Yeah, I agree. I think Ms. Dale would be wonderful on this. They did say, though, the individual should be nominated through a vote on the full
we do
board,
have to
so
vote.
So
do we
very
need to do
simply,
that?
you would just need to, somebody nominate Ms. Dale, you take a quick vote, up, down, and then we pass it along to the North Carolina School Board Association. I'll have Ms. Clayton do that.
well, I nominate Mrs. Dale as our representative to serve on the North Carolina School Board Association's Legislative Committee.
Second.
And all in favor of approving Ms. Sheila Dale as our representative?
Nominee.
Nominee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations for being our
Thank you.
nominee. Thank you. Capital update, Mr. Carl Taylor. Should we just try to have you do all your stuff at once and come up once and sit down? Oh,
I appreciate the water.
we like to exercise. A water break, okay, fine.
Yes, for this evening's capital update, going to highlight again the list of MRTS projects that we have going on currently within our district. The first one is the HVAC replacement project at Atkinson Elementary. Again, this is a 3-phase project, so we're getting ready to begin phase 1. The RFP for that project is now open with a mandatory school visit this week for any contractors that are interested in that project. So it's good to get that underway, at least that RFP process. For the roof replacements, again, that's work being done at Flat Rock Middle School, North Henderson, and West Henderson. The Flat Rock part of that project is finished. They continue to work at West Henderson, and as soon as they finish up there, then they will transition to North Henderson. The gutter downspout replacements at East Henderson, Fletcher, and Hendersonville Middle School, all 3 of those are completed at this time. They made very quick work of that project, and it was great to see. It was much needed work at each of those sites. Again, the HVAC controls upgrade, that's predominantly taking place currently in the majority of our middle schools. So that work is in progress. Ms. Caskey mentioned the board visit to Hillendale Elementary last week, and so we were able to see them pulling wire at Hillendale as they were doing that work at that location last week. Then Upward Elementary is one of our bigger two projects that's underway. Again, the secure entry work was completed earlier in the school year, but now the cafeteria work is underway. And so I have some pictures I'll be able to show you here in just a second. And the same is true at West Henderson, the other big project that's going on. So fencing and groundbreaking has occurred at both of those. So in terms of looking at some pictures, with Upward, again, just as a reminder, the work that was done earlier this year is where the yellow star is and flipping that entrance and creating a secure entrance on that side of the building. That parking lot out front will also get paved over the course of that project. So hopefully by the start of next school year, when we look at an overview of this campus, not only do you see the fresh pavement on the back where the buses are parked, but you'll also see that on the front side as well. Where the red star is, that is where the current work is taking place. If you can kind of barely make out that there is some concrete work there in the middle of those two wings. That concrete area is where the new cafeteria expansion is taking place. So as we look at some photos of that area, the concrete has been demoed and graded out to where this week, potentially they're going to be ready to start pouring footers for that expansion. As we look at it from, well, I've got another photo here from the outside. One thing that Vinoy did do to make sure that the playground is open and safe for our students during this construction project is put fencing up around that playground area. So that students don't have to worry about crossing through construction traffic, because the way Vinoy is accessing that middle area of the campus is through the back of the campus. And so in order to keep our students safe, they did put that fencing up and allows them, again, to use that wonderful playground. As we look at the interior, those windows are going to be taken out this week. And so on Friday, Vinoy was there putting up a temporary wall that is weatherproof as well, so that those windows can come out and they can begin the work on the other side of that temporary wall. Some photos from West Henderson. Again, with West, this overview shows the blue stars where that current main entrance is. And so Carolina Specialties is beginning to demo what used to be the office area there at West Henderson. The new office area and new main entrance is where that red star is at, which is often that pathway that leads up to the cafeteria and gymnasium auditorium area. And then also Carolina Specialties will address those open courtyards that are marked there with the yellow stars in the back. This is one of those open areas between the gymnasium and X building. And so Carolina Specialties was back there last week beginning to dig around in that area, see what kind of wonderful surprises they could find as they prep again in that area for footers to build in that connector, as well as that is the area where those single-user restrooms will also be located. And then, as I mentioned, the current office area being demoed. This used to be where visitors, students, and alike would check in with the front desk. But as you can see there, it has been all cleared out. There is a temporary wall put up there that will be closed off to where people still come in through that main entrance, but now the front office area is located in the counseling office. So they get buzzed into that hallway and then go directly into the counseling office when they visit that campus. So what questions do you have this evening?
Any questions?
My pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Financial statements, Mr. Bernie Sosha.
Good to see you again.
Yes, sir. Same to you.
So just real quick for you, through February 29th of 2024, our local current expense and other restricted funds, we have revenue of $28,434,000, and our expenditures are at $22,356,000. As we're tracking through our expenditures right now, that 57% of budgeted expenditures, each category on track to finish within the initial budget, but we're keeping track of it.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
General operations. I guess you can take this sitting down.
Do you want me to?
No, that's okay. I was just
I'm
wondering.
glad to do whatever. I serve at the pleasure, sir.
No, sir. You sit right there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's my pleasure to share this month's report. So summary calendar of events, we've got the 2024-2025 kindergarten registration going on right now. We are looking at, again, the class of 2037. I love to say that every chance I get, just to remind everybody that this is the class of 2037. When I first got in this business, I was dealing with the class of, I don't know, 1990-something, which is really hard to think about. It's Arts in Our School Month in March, and also our Social Work Month. March 11th through 15th, this week is our Week of Hope. That's in partnership with the Hope Coalition. Students in Harrison County Public Schools, 4 middle and 6 high schools, are taking a public stand against substance misuse during the week-long Week of Hope campaign. It is our spring break for our Flex Calendar schools. Their last day was Friday, so they are enjoying their 3-week break as we speak. Didn't see a lot of tears. I saw a lot of laughter on those days on Friday there with our staff and our students. Spring break for all of our students is March 25th through the 29th. April then will be School Library Month and Occupational Therapy Month. Our next board tours will be at North Henderson High School, Fletcher Elementary, and Flat Rock Middle School on April the 3rd. April the 6th will be our first HCPS job fair. So we will be going from 9 to 12 o'clock at North Henderson High School. We're hiring for all positions within the HCPS team and HCPS family. So come on out to that job fair, especially if you want to drive a bus. We can hook you up. I always love to say we will take bus drivers. April the 8th is our regular meeting. It'll be at 4 o'clock. Closed session will begin at 3 and 4 o'clock here in the boardroom. Our next budget workshop, if you need one, is April the 15th at 9 o'clock. But if you don't feel like you need one, that is okay. April the 25th is our Special Olympics of Henderson County Spring Games. That's at 9:30 at East Henderson High School. And the rain date will be May the 3rd. Last year was my first time to see the Henderson County Spring Games, and oh my goodness, how impressive it was. Not just the number of kids, but also the volunteers and just the carnival atmosphere, and it was just a great value-added day. So if you have a chance, come out and help out and check it out. Then April 30th is our 2024 education celebration at 5:30 p.m. at Jeter Mountain Farm. So we're not too far away from the busy April and May, where there's plenty of celebrations and opportunities for you to come out and enjoy some fellowship with your colleagues. So we will hold on tight to spring break, and then we will fire up for the last 9 weeks and have a successful end to the 2024 or 2023-2024 school year, which is getting very interesting for me because I have a senior. So I have somebody in the class of 2024, which is very strange to think about. Not the daughter who was here earlier. We have to put up with her for a few more years, but we'll try to get her through. But certainly it's my honor to share that with you, and I will yield the microphone, sir.
Thank you. Anything else? I will take a motion to adjourn. Any questions? Discussion? How about a vote?
Yeah.
All in favor? All opposed? We are adjourned.